What's going on, everybody? It is the OCPD coach, Shannon Williams, and I'm here with something a little different than what I typically do. Typically, I talk about OCPD, obsessive compulsive personality disorder, which is a disorder many of us have not been aware of our entire lives. As a matter of fact, I found out about it last year, and I've been helping individuals with finding a balance between their work life and their personal life. So that's something that I typically talk about on this channel. And if you are here specifically for that content, I do want to let you know that I have been working on an online course. It's not one of those, I promise to make you six-figure courses or anything like that. It's a course that just takes a lot of what I talk about in a 6 to 12 week one-on-one environment, and it puts it in an affordable format that a lot of people can get access to. So it's all about building a healthier relationship with progress. It's something I've been working on. I wanted to do it for the whole year because I already had the solutions in my head, but I had to take the time and set it aside to actually work on it. So that's something that's coming soon. We just finished up the captions for it, and I need to just put it into my site and set it up and make it look pretty in there. So that's on the way. However, I really wanted to talk about something that I see going on all around YouTube for some reason. It is a lot of talk about jobs, layoffs, and ultimately the struggle that people are finding themselves in. You have a lot of videos where people are in the struggle themselves, and they'll be talking about what their experience is currently like, what they're doing to get out of it. I have been in these struggles myself. I've actually been laid off from jobs or fired 2 to 3 times total. And these have been for different circumstances. None of these have been a reflection of my work and my work ethic. It's always been something different. And I might go into that in the future if you all will be interested in knowing more about it. But in this video, I really wanted to talk about what steps you can do before you get laid off. Many of us, we hardly ever know if we're going to get laid off. I'm not going to speak anything into existence, but I always, in my head, always just think, okay, if you get laid off tomorrow, are you going to be set? How much money do you have? What's your plan? What's your strategy? Different things like that. And I would like for everybody to have that same mentality, because I see a lot of us, this is not everybody, so be mindful, don't get offended if it's not you. But I do see a lot of spending in areas where we might not need to spend that money, and we don't have the money saved that we need to have saved for these events when it takes place. So if you're the type of person where you're not in a situation where you've lost your job yet and you are not where you think you should be, if you were to lose your job, then this video is perfect for you, and I hope that you get something out of it. Let's hop right into it. So I have been at the company I'm at now for 4 years, and I started there as an intern. I was laid off during COVID. I was able to come back as an intern again, and then I found the position I'm in right now. But my manager for 2 of those 4 years, and now he's a good friend of mine and a mentor, he actually gave me some words of advice when I thought I was getting laid off twice more outside of those 2 times. And he told me job security is a myth. Because I told him, I'm like, I'm stressed. I am. I don't know if I'm going to lose my job. If I do lose my job, what does that mean for my home? What does that mean for my family? What I built? I had no idea. I was lost. He told me that, and it was job security is a myth, which is one of the craziest things to hear. It was stressful hearing it, but at the same time, it was relieving to hear. It was something that made me think, okay, no matter what you do, you can always lose the job. No matter if you're the most model employee, you're always here on time, you're always staying late, you're getting every assignment done that you need to get done, you have a great relationship with everybody, you can still get laid off, because it is not always due to you. Sometimes the individuals who are making these cuts and making these layoffs have no personal relationship with the person they're laying off. They don't know you at all. Many times, actually, and you see this on TikTok, you see it on YouTube, you'll have a meeting where this is a layoff meeting where the person is getting fired, and the HR employee will be in there who has never met that individual at all, and they're the one delivering the news. And that actually happened to me at an old company I was at. I had a great relationship with everybody, and the person who delivered the news was somebody who knew nothing about me. They read off the paper all of the words that they were supposed to read, and That was that. There was no personal relationship, no tie-in, nothing there. Which I guess it makes sense when you really think about it, because it would be really hard for people who are close to individuals to lay them off. But it does just make you realize that it doesn't always matter about what you are doing for the company. Sometimes they just lay you off. And that made me realize that job security is a myth. It does not exist. There is no such thing as job security. Even CEOs get fired. CEOs can get booted from their positions, from stakeholders voting them out. There are different people who don't like the big decisions they're making for companies, and they have to go. So nobody is safe. That's something I want you all to just get that in your head. Now, the faster you get that in your head, I think it'll be easier and a smoother process for you to start doing the steps that I have listed here if you're not already. Because these are the steps that once I started thinking like that, I immediately said, okay, well, let me get everything in my life together. That way, if I do have this situation, at least I can have the best odds of having a smooth transition and being able to go from there to whatever the next step of my life is. All right. So first thing that I actually have on here is creating an emergency fund. Many of you might hear it called a rainy day fund, or some people just call it savings, but an emergency fund. This is something that up until I was probably the age 26 years old, I never considered that an essential thing to have, was an emergency fund. It was, as long as I have a few dollars going from week to week, then I'm good. And that was living paycheck to paycheck, because if an emergency happened, there was nothing I could do except use a credit card. So you want to build an emergency fund. Now, I follow the Dave Ramsey emergency fund plan, and I've taught Financial Peace University, so this is not just me ranting about stuff that I'm not aware of. I actually followed his plan in 2021, right before we were about to purchase a home. And then I heard about him right before we were about to purchase a home. And then I heard about him and realized that I was nowhere near where I needed to be to make that home purchase. So first thing I did was woke my wife. When my wife woke up, I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning. When she woke up, I told her, I said, we have to get out of debt. We have to get emergency funds saved up, and we need to get a better down payment before we can go and purchase a home, because right now we're in a bad situation if we do so. And Dave Ramsey it's an escalated emergency fund plan. So he has these things called baby steps. The first thing that we have in the baby step for your emergency fund is saving $1,000. So I forget the numbers. I should have actually looked this up, but I think it's over 50% of Americans right now cannot come up with $1,000 if there's an emergency. And I'm not talking about off a credit card. I'm talking about just $1,000 cash. They can't come up with $1,000 cash if they absolutely needed to, which is scary, because most people's rent is more than $1,000. Car repairs are more than $1,000. I've seen light bills upward of $700, car notes upward of $1,000. So we're talking about some really serious things that can happen in your life. Even deductibles. Most deductibles are over $1,000. So people can't even cover their deductibles if something serious happens. And that's not okay. That's something that I know people might be in different situations that might make it hard for them to do it, but it doesn't negate the fact that they need to have emergency funds saved. That is something that we don't realize how much we need it until we're in a situation where we need it. And then once you have that situation happen and you have the money to use, you actually have such a sense of peace, because you can really look at it as, I was prepared for this situation, even though I didn't know it was going to happen. None of us ever account for bad situations happening. They just happen, which is the point of an emergency fund. So the first step is saving $1,000. Get that as quickly as you can. That's rapid. What I had to do to get my $1,000, actually, I think this is for my next phase of it, but you'll wind up having to do stuff that makes you uncomfortable. You're going to have to cut subscriptions if you have any. Eating out, you might not. So I know people say eating at home is just as expensive as eating out. Now that you're doing rice and beans, let me tell you something real quick. I'll give y'all a hack. All right. So pinto beans, Bush's pinto beans. This is name brand pinto beans. You can get those for $1.28 right now at Walmart per can, right? So let's say you were to do beans for a whole week and it might suck, but this temporary suffering is worth more. And it might actually be healthier for you than a lot of the stuff you're eating anyway, especially if you sit up eating McDonald's. So let's say $1.28 per can. And let's say you're eating about 2 cans a day, right? And I'm not including family. You can extrapolate all of the calculations based off your situation, but say you're doing 2 cans a day. It's about $2.56, not including tax, but $2.56 for a whole week. So for 2 cans of beans, if you're doing 2 cans of beans a day, that's $17.92 total for a whole week. Now, again, I mentioned this is not this is not a solution that is going to feel good. It's not going to taste the best, but you can do beans for $17.92. And then when you talk about rice, you get a whole bag of rice for $1.77. You probably need about, I'm just going to guess and say probably about 2 or 3 bags. So add another $6. So let's add another $6. You guys can't see my calculator when I'm doing it. So we're sitting at about $24. Add taxes. Let's just round it up to 30 because I don't know off the top of my head how much that would be, and I want to play it safe. So we round it up to about $30. Now, if you decide you want to do cornbread and stuff, that's up to you. But you can do rice and beans, and that's something that Dave Ramsey, he always says, and a lot of people might hear it as a joke when he says rice and beans, rice and beans. But when I was in this situation, when I was in this stocking it up, because my wife has been able to be a stay-at-home wife and mother since we've gotten married, I knew that I had to be the one who managed the financial elements of our relationship. And I was able to do rice and beans no problem for the entirety of us getting that $1,000. I had no problem. As a matter of fact, it was actually good. It tasted so good. Rice and beans is one of my favorite dishes, so I might be a little bit what do you call it? I have a subjective opinion. I might be biased. That's the word I'm looking for. I might be biased. I love rice and beans. I'm the type of person where I go to restaurants and order rice and beans with some cornbread or sausage on the side. So that, for me, that works. But yeah, you can do this. You can do this. You might have to do rice and beans for a little bit and get you $1,000 saved. $1,000 in a savings account separate from your current account, because you want to make sure that you don't accidentally spend that money on anything. And what I like to do, I like to make it a little bit harder to access this money, because we wind up seeing things and quantifying things as emergencies. You need to have a clear idea of what emergencies are. So another thing I would recommend is write out a list of scenarios that would constitute as emergencies for your life. So that would be things like your car breaking down, losing the house keys and you have to call somebody over to come let you in, or even if you lose your job and you need to just pay for food. These are the types of things that would be emergencies. Going out to eat is not an emergency. Doing an upgrade on your car is not an emergency. Buying some clothes, as long as you have clothes that don't have holes in them and that you can wear, that's not an emergency. So you need to figure out what the things are that are emergencies. And this should not be money that you're giving also. Giving is not an emergency to me. I don't see giving as an emergency. You have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. So make sure you have that clear plan of what an emergency fund looks like for you. Next thing, the next phase of an emergency fund. So after $1,000, you want to save 3 to 6 months of expenses. So you need to know how much you're spending, first of all, because if you don't know how much money you spend every month, how do you know how much you need to survive? And this is where if you're budgeting, great. If you're not budgeting, start budgeting. And budgeting is you're going to list all of your expenses, so every single thing that you pay for out of a month consistently, and you're going to list all of your income. And then based off of your income and your income minus your expenses, that'll show you how much you have as a surplus or how much in the hole you are every single month. That's how you're going to build your budget. Once you have your budget, you'll be able to look at all of those expenses, just the expenses, that are mandatory. So we're not going to include Netflix. We're not going to include going out. We're not going to include anything else. I include internet because I think internet is mandatory for most people, but you can downgrade your internet. So we're going to do all of that research to understand how much our expenses are. And once we have that number, that is what you want to multiply by 3. So you can get your 3 months emergency or 6 months emergency. Honestly, I'll be very brutally honest here. In the current market that we're in, where people are out of jobs for upwards of a year, a lot of times, I actually recommend having 12 months saved. Now, this is not something that is easy. It's not going to be fast to do, but I recommend making that a goal. So hit the 3 months first. Once you hit 3 months, start thinking about, okay, how do I make this multiply this to get this to a 6 months? And then eventually, it might take you 2 or 3 years to do so, but you really want to have 12 months in the back of your head. So 12 months is not essential, but definitely want to get at least 3 to 6 months of your emergency expenses saved up. And with that, you're going to also want to make sure that you have your debt paid off. This is something that might be a little more challenging for people because a lot of us have thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in debt, not even including student loans. Student loans are crazy. Now, student loans, I think, are a little bit different. I don't know exactly, but I think you're able to do it based off of your income. I think it's income-based repayment options for student loans. What I don't know, though, is if the student loan interest will stop accruing if you're not paying it. And that's what you need to just work that out with your student loan provider, if it's Nailnet or something else. Just work that out, see what you can do. So that is the next thing, paying off debt. And Dave Ramsey also has what he calls the debt snowball method, where you start with the smallest debt and you pay each debt all the way off in full. Keep making the minimum payments on all of your current cars, your current accounts, but only pay off one account at a time, which would be starting with the smallest balanced account. He doesn't factor in interest or anything like that. And I will tell you guys, I had to do this myself. I think I had about $30,000+ of debt that I had to pay off before we bought our home, and I used the snowball method, and it was addicting, and it worked. And then on top of that, when I just purchased my truck, I did the same exact thing because I didn't want to have debt on my head. So I paid my truck off within 6 months. And that is something that's possible if you just stay consistent, you make sacrifices, and you just honestly stay disciplined. So that's what I got there. Start with 3 months in advance. All right, I'm just checking it off a list. That's what I got. I got a list over here. I want to make sure I'm hitting all these points because this is really serious. All right. So once you start getting that credit paid off, and again, I don't know how much time you'll have. This is the thing. I don't know how much time you'll have. So just imagine that you're able to hit all of these things. That's what I'm trying to say. If you have a job and they're not saying you're getting laid off next month and you have time, these are all the steps you need to be taking, like ASAP. In your current environment, you need to be taking these steps. If you get laid off in a month into this, these things won't set you back. If anything, they'll actually put you in a better situation either way, because you'll be paying debt off, you'll be having some money saved, whatever the situation is, you'll be in a better situation. So follow these steps, but the goal of this is that you're able to see this all the way through and then make it to the next step of your life with financial freedom. So another thing I put in here is just imagine that you're never going to get hired again. If you're never going to get hired again, what would you do? Where would you be? This is something I always have to think about when I mention the job security being a myth. I have to think about if no company ever wanted to hire me again, what skills do I have right now that I could use to monetize and add value to somebody else where they would pay me, even if it's not a job, but it's a gig or my business, where they could pay me for those services. You need to know what you can do. What are your skills? Do you have skills? Do you need skills? Many people don't even know what they're talented at because they haven't tried anything. I think you should go try things. Go put yourself in uncomfortable situations. I recommend I have another video I'll be doing, but I recommend doing things like Toastmasters, because they say more people are afraid to do public speaking than death. Which is a wild thing to think about, but I can really see it being a factual statement. And with that being the case, I recommend doing things like Toastmasters, where you can go and practice public speaking once a week. Even if it's in front of a group that you're a little bit familiar with, just practicing getting up and talking in front of people. That is something that will help your confidence. It helps you communicate in a more clear way, because they're going and giving you feedback on everything that you're doing wrong, the things you're doing right, just working on improving yourself. So definitely just consider that. What would you do and where would you be? I recommend writing this out, and that leads us right into my next step. My next step is to, I thought I wrote it down here, but I don't have my glasses or contacts on, so it's probably in here, I just don't see it. But I actually have emergency layoff document. And this document is, I think it's even entitled, "Just in case I get laid off." I'm trying to see if I can find it on my computer over here. Give me a second. Yep. So it's called 2024, in case you are laid off plan. And I wrote this. If you are reading this, it means that you've been laid off. I want to first of all let you know that you've been here before, twice actually. I also want to remind you of what happened in both instances. Man, it sounds like a movie. But then I wrote my first layoff experience from start to finish, and wrote how that situation actually led me to a higher paying position, moving out the state, growing in many different areas. And then I wrote my second layoff experience, where that also just helped me build more grit. I remember when I got laid off the second time, I was already a crazy workaholic, but I was up until, I did probably 2 or 3 of the nights, I did 24-hour live streams on Twitch, working on my project, working on my game. Before I got laid off, because I could see the writing on the wall, I took a whiteboard and I wrote down every single thing I wanted to learn while I was laid off to improve my value. And those things included JavaScript, C#, I think either Ruby or Groovy, one of those two. I think it was Ruby, because I don't think I knew about Groovy yet. AWS, it was some more advanced AWS stuff, and I wrote it all on the whiteboard. I'll never forget it. I had it on the whiteboard. It's the same whiteboard I have on my wall right now. And I started working. The day I got laid off, I played SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, or SmackDown versus Raw, the original SmackDown versus Raw. And I just was thinking, man, you have no obligations now to go to work. Now you can do whatever you want. So are you gonna squander it away or make the most of your opportunity? And I remember that was the last time I played the video game until I got a job and started working again. The next thing I did with that, and I'll go more into the document, but I'm just kind of giving you an overview. The next thing I did with that was I actually paid my rent 3 months ahead of time, ahead of schedule. This is when rent wasn't as crazily priced as it is now. My rent now has doubled. Where I was at my apartment, my rent doubled. So before I purchased my home, I checked and saw how much the new units were going for. And I think I was paying around $1,300 a month. And I think it might have been $1,400. Now that same unit costs about $2,500 a month, which is insane. No real upgrades. So yeah, they were, I went ahead and paid that rent 3 months ahead of time, because they gave me some breathing room. I knew at least I had a place to stay. Worst case scenario, we had a place to stay. So if you can pay your rent ahead of time, or your mortgage, whatever it is, I always recommend that. And just in general, I recommend always being ahead on your bills, ahead on your rent especially. If you could stay at least have an extra week's pay and an account for your rent, I think that's a great situation, because things happen. And that's what I did there. So the next section I have on here is lessons learned. Oh, also I made a video for encouragement. What is this? Let me see. I'm just curious. Did I make this video? Oh no, somebody else made this video. Okay, cool. It was a Jay Shetty video about why losing your job can be the best thing to happen for you. And it was a skit. So I added that. So that's cool. So next thing I had lessons learned. I'll mention some of the things I had. Sometimes lower paying positions are just to stop in your path. Stay patient. Continue working on side projects with all of your responsibilities in mind. Go the extra mile when applying for jobs. Do a thorough review of job requirements and detail why you would be the best fit. Always put your best foot forward. You never know who's watching. And I said that because when I got hired back at the company I'm at, I actually was referred by somebody else who I didn't work with directly. They weren't my teammate, but they saw me doing a presentation on some implementations I was making in the company and decided to put my name in as a referral for the new internship, which it was an internship as a software engineer, which I had no real experience at doing that. So it was for me, I had to be honest. I told them, I don't have real experience doing it. I'll give it a shot. But what made you choose to pick me up? And they said it was the scrappiness is what they always attributed to. They say my willingness, my stubbornness to figure something out. That's the type of people that they want to have on teams, regardless of how educated you are. They just want somebody who wants to figure stuff out and loves figuring stuff out. So that's a benefit. If you're not the smartest person, but you're a problem solver, people will hire you for that. People will use you for that because they need people like that around. Another thing I put on here, a section, benefits of layoff. I put more free time, more freedom to explore. You maximize your potential in that role. You gain years of experience. You purchased a home, you started a family, you have a solid retirement fund. Okay, so these were my personal layoff benefits where I looked at it and said, okay, this 4 years or however long it would have been at the time was not for nothing. I got something out of it. And I listed all of the things I got out of it. And if y'all see my eyes switching back, it's because my face on the camera is right here, but the camera is actually right here. So I'm looking at myself instinctively, but the camera is all the way over here. I didn't want to do a vertical video. Next thing I had on here is a step-by-step plan. So first thing on here, man, that's crazy. I didn't realize I put it. Pray for clarity. Wow, that's deep. I said, pray for clarity. Find 5 Bible verses to cling to during this season. That's crazy. What's so insane is that I wound up doing this stuff. I didn't lose my job, but I still wound up doing this stuff. I actually have, I'm gonna show y'all a little bit. It's not junky, it's just a lot of papers. But I actually wound up doing all of these Bible verses on my wall, not even realizing that I had that in my document before I got laid off. So that's insane that I put that in there. Hug my wife and my son, share the news. First thing I had on here was apply for unemployment because you definitely want to get those benefits going. Create a new budget. So based off that layoff, I needed a new budget. Review and update my resume and update my LinkedIn account. Identify 5 potential companies and review their job openings the first weekend. So that's just giving myself a day break. But the first weekend, I need to find those 5 companies and review their openings. If you fit any of the roles, do a detailed cover letter explaining how and why, and then apply. Identify which of your immediate contacts are working in your desired fields. So it's another thing, you got to build a network. So that's something I'm going into next. So ask for the HR contact and a referral for the positions. Reach out to the HR contact with a referral and see if you can set some time up to chat about the role. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't because it might be a conflict of interest, but you never know. So just always give it a shot. You never know what might happen. I actually did it and I got the job after doing it. So I'll tell people what worked for me and go from there. Try to pay your mortgage off for 2 to 3 months. That's funny, I just said that. And inform them of your hardship. So if you have a mortgage, let them know that you're going through a hardship. Don't just not pay them. Let them know they might have some options for you. If you have some equity, you might be able to use that, which would suck. But when you're surviving, you have to do what you have to do. So think about that. I have kill extra recurring payments and subscriptions and reduce mobile plan. Another thing y'all might not know is that you can get cheaper phone plans. And I think I have T-Mobile now. T-Mobile, we have the unlimited right now. And I actually need to downgrade this because I'm not on the road anymore. But they have really simple plans for $20 where you just pay for a certain amount of bandwidth. To me, that made the most sense because if I'm going through this job situation, last thing I want to do is be on the phone. I'm probably not in my car a lot where I need Wi-Fi all the time and can't connect. So do that. Inform your truck company about your hardship as well, but don't pay this in advance. So my truck is paid off. So inform your light bill company of the hardship. And I have an appraiser come to your home and appraise the value. I wonder what that was about. That's actually interesting. I wonder what that was about. Probably to see if I could just know what it was if I needed to sell it. Determine 2 projects that you can work on. One is the project that can bring the quickest money, and 2 is the project that can be rolled out with the least amount of money. That's good. Reasons to have confidence in yourself. That's another section. And I put 2 of my projects, Scrap City. Scrap City had over 20,000 total downloads with a 5-star average rating. Markout generated around $20,000 and maintained a positive rating, which I think is a 90% rating right now. And then I put the next section. Now that you have time on your side, here are some projects that you can consider building to generate money. In addition, you have some tools that you can use as well. So I listed some of my projects, just some of the ideas that I have for video games. Next, I put some of my tools. So my truck, I got a t-shirt press, 3D printer, my camera, my laptop. The next thing I have on here are some folks that you can consider reaching out to regarding job openings or work, and I put contacts. I put contacts for every person that I might have interacted with that I know either has a good position in the company or would like to work with me, or we've had successful work relationships in the past. And I listed everybody, so that was really cool. And then the last thing I put on here is skills. So below are some skills that you have to really hone in on. I put networking. It's blocked out, so I couldn't see it. Okay, networking. This has led to multi-$100,000 initiatives. That's true. Public speaking. I've spoken at mega events such as Afrotech and presented at a company all hands with massive praise. And then problem solving. You were hired at this company twice for your scrappiness and ability to problem solve. So that's an overview of my document. It could be refined now. It actually should be refined now, but that's what you need. You need to actually come up with a strategy for if you get laid off. These are the steps that I'm taking immediately to put myself in a better situation. So that took a little bit longer than I expected, but it's fine. Skip around if you need to. Next on here, request a credit line, but do not use the money. So if you have credit cards and you have a good standing with the credit cards, they sometimes, I think Discover, they automatically will give you an increase in your credit line every once in a while, but many other companies don't. You actually have to call and request it. So I do this every single time my pay changes, and every single 6 months I call every single company I have a credit card with and ask them to go ahead and see if I'm eligible for a credit line increase. Even if they only increase you by $3,000 or $4,000, that's still extra money that you have access to if you absolutely need it. So we don't like debt. I don't like using debt. I think it's a trap. But knowing that you have it is a different sense of peace. When you know you have that money, that phantom money to use if you absolutely need to, it does help you feel a little bit better when you're in a situation like this. And a lot of this situation, if you do get laid off, is going to be coming down to your mental health and what you can do to put yourself in a state of mind to keep going out into the world and doing what you need to do to fight and provide for yourself and your family. All right, next thing I have on here, sell unnecessary clutter. So that's something that, especially if you're in that second, you're trying to get that emergency fund going, just sell as much crap as you can. Another one is find a way to upskill yourself. So this is something I'm currently in a job that I've been in for the past 4 years, and in order for me to get promoted to the next level, I actually needed to have I needed to have a degree in computer science or something related. And I found that out towards the end of the promotion process. It was all the way at the end I found out. So I decided to go ahead back to college, and I'm getting my degree. I should have my degree hopefully by next week. My final assignment for my course is literally pending, and they said by December 30th I should know. So hopefully next week I'll have the final course and I'll be done. But that is on company dime. That is on the company I'm at. They're paying for their education. So while you're at a company, before you get laid off, maximize any opportunities you have to upskill yourself, to improve your skills in different areas of your life. All right, next thing I have on here, remain generous. This does not have to be financial. That is a key component to being generous, in my opinion, is understanding it doesn't have to be financial. We always think that generosity is money, give all my money away. But no, generosity is your time, it's your energy, it's your advice. It can be a myriad of different things. So I love for us to remain generous, even if you just have 15 minutes to talk to somebody and give them some advice or make them feel better. It actually makes you feel better. So the more you put into the world positivity, the more you get added back into yourself. And next thing I have on here is invest in your retirement accounts. This is big. So when you are doing the emergency fund, you want to drop the retirement account contribution down to the minimum where you get the max. So if your company matches it, make sure you just do the minimum. When you are past that phase, now you want to be doing 15 to 20% of your income in that retirement account, and possibly even more. I think it's actually 25% is what you want to aim for, but I know that's hard. So make sure you are investing in your retirement account. What I would recommend is to watch the Money Guy show. So they are the financial gurus that I watch when it comes down to my retirement account, retirement benchmarks, and statistics on retirement. Those guys are great with that. So make sure you do that. If you have a company sponsored retirement account, that's amazing. Take advantage of that. You're leaving money on the table if you're not taking advantage of it, especially if they do a match. If you don't have a company sponsored retirement account, you can open one up. You can open up a Roth IRA, which is an individual retirement account with your bank. So Chase has that option, and I know Fidelity has that option. I do mine with Fidelity to keep everything in one place. So definitely make sure you figure out how to get a retirement account set up and start putting something in it. The reason why you want to do this now is because that money compounds and grows. So I started putting minimum contributions in when I was 19 years old at my first real job. And by the time I turned, however old I was when I purchased my home, maybe 26, 25, I actually was able to take money out of my retirement for my down payment for my home and still have money in that account. Like I still have money in there. So it's not as if my account is emptied out. My account is actually growing tremendously because it's been so much money in there for so long that it just keeps compounding on itself. So please don't sleep on this. Like this is, if you could remember one thing from this, is this. Well, outside of the emergency fund, is this. You need to save money in your retirement account. As soon as you get a paycheck, ask HR, how do you contribute to the 401k if they have one? If they don't have one, go right to your bank and set up automatic withdrawals to come from your the same date you get your direct deposit, set up the automatic withdrawals to come out of that account to go into that Roth IRA, and just start investing that money into safe stocks. So I'm not a financial advisor. I actually don't give advice on stocks to invest in and mutual funds, but Dave Ramsey, those guys, and the Money Guy show, they will help you figure out where you can put that money best to use. But you definitely want to have money in your retirement account, because when you turn 65 or 67, wherever the age has been moved to, the government won't have money to take care of you, and you don't want to be homeless. That's it. I mean, that's the two things that you want to consider. You also don't want your children taking care of you. That's not fair. That's absolutely not fair to expect for your children to take care of you, especially if you did have the means to make this happen and you just chose to spend that money elsewhere, because your children need to be putting that money into investing in their children now. So definitely don't rely on your children. Don't rely on the government, and don't be homeless if you can help it. Try to make sure that you can get some money put up in the retirement account. So those are the main things I would do if I was just prepping for a layoff. I would do all of those things. A few more things you could just give a try. These are just some bonus tips, some extra credit. Consider extending your lease. So if you're in an apartment and you know that you're going to be there for a while, you can actually extend your lease reach out and see if you're eligible, but extend that lease out for months or years so that you can lock in that payment. Because apartments, I've never seen an apartment go down in rent. Typically, they always go up. So if they always go up and you can lock yourself in for a couple more years at that rate, then I would recommend doing that if it makes sense for you. Another thing, downgrading the vehicle. If you got a really expensive truck or car and you're not upside down in it, and you can get rid of it, get rid of it. It's not worth the burden if you can't pay it off within a year. That's to me. I say if you can't pay the vehicle off in a year, don't get it, because you don't want to carry debt over into multiple years except for a mortgage. That's the only one. So I would get rid of it, just downgrade the vehicle, try to pay something, get something in cash. And if you can't get any cash, just get something that you can pay off in less than a year, and that you do pay off in less than a year. Don't get stupid out here, because a lot of people making poor decisions with vehicles that's screwing up their whole life. So don't do that. Next thing on here, don't depend on social media income alone. I'm on YouTube making this video. I don't make any money from YouTube right now. I'm not monetized. I still always recommend, because I remember things like the adpocalypse and the fact that YouTube is owned by Google, and these companies you're at the mercy of these companies still if you only depend on YouTube. So I would not just depend on YouTube. I would have something that I can provide to the audience via YouTube, which is why I'm doing my course that I'm working on. Is now I have a product that people who really like my content, or they learn a lot from me, or they want to learn more, they can go and get my content, which is separate from YouTube and any YouTube advertisers. It's separate from Google owning it. It's something that I own. I own the intellectual property of it. I own the distribution of it. I own everything regarding it. So try to make yourself something like that, because you don't want to have yourself in a situation where Google goes down or YouTube goes down. If Google goes down, the world is screwed, but the world is definitely screwed if Google goes down. But if YouTube goes down, or they stop serving the ads, or they're not paying as much per ad, you don't want to put yourself in a horrible situation because of that. And then you start having to do crazy viral tactics to try to get recognized to get some money. So don't do that. Another thing I had on here, it's based off the individual. I'm a man of faith. I believe that you should anchor yourself to a faith. So what helped me during my stints where I didn't have a job was I had God. I actually listened to Joel Osteen, which is crazy. One of the most positive people that I've ever heard on the internet. And I listened to him every single morning when I would get in the shower. I would listen to his positive, uplifting messages. And I remember one distinctively where he said, God will make a door out of what you think is a wall, let alone a window. It was something to that extent he said. And I remembered it because that's exactly what happened in my life. I remember I was watching those videos. I was standing encouraged. I was praying every day. I was still putting in crazy work. Like I never stopped working, never stopped grinding. I was grinding like crazy. And then one day I just got a call out of something that I didn't even know existed, because my name was getting spoken on in a positive light. So just stay rooted to a faith if you can. Next thing I have is anchor yourself to a community. Community is huge, especially in a situation like this, especially if you're not married. I'm married. When I had my situations, it was during COVID, and I just had my wife. It was just us. Just me and her. And she was able to, we had our community of each other. So she kept me supported. I made sure she had everything she needed. And she was just so gracious during that time period that it kept me motivated and allowed me to just also be in my zone that I need to get to make smart decisions. So if you don't have a significant other, now I'm talking too long, my mouth is dry. If you don't have a significant other that you can anchor to like that, try to get into a church, or try to get into a community-based community. So something in your local area, like a Toastmasters, maybe business meeting, something like that. So that's definitely something I recommend. Also, improving your business acumen. A lot of people will not be able to get jobs for a long time, it seems, based off the market. So many people are either having to struggle, be homeless, do gig work, do DoorDash and things like that, or become business owners. And if you are a business owner, just having the title business owner does not mean you know how to run the business. There are so many elements. So with that being the case, just improve your business acumen as much as possible. Talk to different individuals, study, read books. Audiobooks are great. I love listening to audiobooks, and just continue to learn as much as you can. Building a budget, we already talked about that. And then another thing I had on here is consider getting a roommate, but I think that's kind of relevant to another topic. If you are in a situation where you just think you're getting laid off, I gave you so much information. I mean, we're almost at an hour, so just about 45 minutes worth of content. I hope y'all got something out of this. If you have questions, or if you want me to do another video based around a topic that is more relative to you or your situation, make sure you let me know. If you need prayer requests, let me know. I also can do that. And I mean, we're going to figure it out. Something that I really want you all to keep in mind at all times is God will give you everything that you need for the season that you're in. So that's something that was from my pastor, Stephen Furtick, from his book, Do the New You. And I kept that anchored in my head. And it's helped me so much with perspective of God giving you everything you need for the season you're in. So, yeah, I'm rooting for us. I mean, we got to keep fighting and keep pivoting, keep adapting. But I have been there. I know what it's like to be laid off multiple times. And I'm giving you all the strategy that I applied myself to actually prepare for anything like that in the future. All right? Y'all keep fighting for your life. Peace.